Um, so just before we get there, before your appointment at the end of June of 2024, or shortly after, did you have any knowledge of the existence of the task team? When I talk about task team, I'm talking about the NPKTT. Yeah.
Well, I did, in a way, in the sense that I would have served in cabinet from 2019, and there would be reports in cabinet with the relevant or from the relevant minister, and there would be other discussions, related discussions. But as minister, I'm above average about issues affecting government, because we do meet as cabinet from time to time, where you listen to other colleagues making reports or doing reports in various platforms inside and outside cabinet. So you get to be aware of what's happening in that department, even if it's not necessarily a department that you are heading. And in that way, I was, in a way, knowledgeable in that sense about the existence of some units, even though I couldn't name all of them at that time, as it were.
But you would have been aware of a political killings task team, in fact, when you were Premier.
Yes.
Or shortly afterwards, you gave evidence at the Morani Commission.
Yes, I was aware.
And one of the recommendations from that Commission of Inquiry was that such a team be established.
I was aware even before I became Premier in 2013 of what police were doing with violence and aspects of violence in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. I know, for instance, that there was a task team that was established in the province in 2014. I know there was another one that was established in 2016. And I know that there was then this one. By the time this one was appointed in 2018, I was at that time working at full-time at Lutula House, headquarters of the ANC, but I was aware that I was aware of those developments. That was before I got appointed as minister in 2019 in the first place.
Because the president made an announcement in the National Assembly, I think it was in May 2018, here in this National Assembly, that the situation warranted a special task team to investigate these political murders in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and they must investigate and bring the perpetrators to justice. Yes. I don't know if you were present when that announcement was made here in the National Assembly, or you became aware of it.
Well, I know that in 2019, the State of the Nation address, the president did make statements on the need for specialized units in subs to deal with what was happening at that time in the country, and that it was agreed that there would be those specialized task teams. Generally, and later I became aware that indeed the relevant minister did start processes of responding to the calls that were made at that time. So I know that there was a particular study that was gone into in that year, 2019, to respond on the call that the president had made, that there is now a need to have specialized task teams, specialized units in subs to deal with various categories of crimes in the country in a much more coordinated, much more organized and resourced manner. And that study was indeed undertaken. But I know that when it was completed, already management of police, and I imagine with the minister leading, they were then entertaining ideas of saying, well, in 2018, we established another task team. We now have completed a study that seeks to rise above various task teams, which, in their view, were not necessarily impactful as they would have wanted them to be in terms of combating crime in the country. And they wanted to take the response of government, as far as this is concerned, to another level. Hence the study, hence then the decision to establish those specialized units in a coordinated way.
So were you aware that this interministerial committee had been appointed or established by the president to coordinate this effort of addressing the political killings in KwaZulu-Natal, that interministerial committee being the Minister of Police then at the time, who would have been Minister Pele, and the other ministers of intelligence, state security agency, defense, justice and constitutional development. Those in defense, they in that cluster. Were you aware of that, or did you become aware of that committee?
Yes, I became aware that there was an interministerial task team that was established as an intervention by the president in 2018, and he established that. What I then came to know later is that the intervention, the political intervention by the president, especially after one incident or at the time of one of the incidents in KZN, the president directed or commanded that there must be a mechanism to respond to the problem, and they appointed the interministerial task team or interministerial committee who were tasked with that particular task of developing or establishing a mechanism to respond to the call at that time. And they then established a second tier, which was a steering committee, which I would imagine they established a third tier at an operational foundational level of people who would operate, and that was under a lieutenant general who was deputy national commissioner at that time. So the intervention that the president wanted to see and finally saw was a kind of a three-tier kind of intervention when it was completed and started operating as it started, and then got to be known as the National Political Killings Task Team. So it referred to that kind of three-tier, each one clearly identified interministerial, and then the second tier being the steering, and then the operational one right on the ground of people who were operatives. So that was a complete mechanism that the president set up to deal with that incident of Mr. Makata, Savankosi Mchunu, and other matters that got referred to them later, but it was in direct response to that particular incident, among others that had happened just before that one. And it was a concern to the president. That is what then happened, which would then be assessed or evaluated from time to time to look at impact and other aspects thereof.
Now, you mentioned that must one accept that you were briefed on this, on how the team was, or the unit, I think. Would you prefer to call it a unit?
I prefer to.
Would you prefer to call the task team a unit?
No. I actually must express a worry that when Major General Van Rooyen was called, I think, to the Madlanga Commission, and she was asked a specific question, is there a difference between a unit and a team, task team? She, to the best of my collection, said there's no difference. I got very worried because throughout the orientation and so on, up to when I was given leave, there's always been a clear distinction between a task team and a unit. And as a practice in subs, the units become part of the organogram. And that includes that unit that was Cattleman task team. I can't remember the exact term that they used, but that one was a unit, meaning it was part of the organogram. But this one, the political task team, has never been part of the organogram, including when we dealt with the organogram under my leadership after I got appointed, because under my leadership, what we did is we took the strategic plan and the annual plan. We started that, and we came together to say, what is the meaning of this in relation to this, the organizational structure, the current one of subs? And we reviewed that. We went to a thorough process of reviewing the organizational structure with a view to aligning it with the strategic plan of the department, following the imperatives of the 6th or 7th administration with its 3 priorities, with a thorough discussion.
When would that have been?
I may have dates here when we had there would be various dates, but all I know is that in May this year, there's been a signing off of the new organogram that we started discussing last year. And it took months before we could complete it and make it ready to go to negotiations, but it has been signed off this year. And so that kind of process that we went to.
So can I just help us understand, Minister? So what appears on an organogram is the word unit. No words like task teams are on the organogram.
There isn't.
And if a unit is called a task team, then what is the status of this task team if it doesn't appear on the organogram? Is it an unofficial unit? Is it a rogue unit? How would you describe
a unit?
Yes.
Yes, a unit would be deliberately established as part of the organogram for a particular purpose. But it would be, as I have observed up to now, it would be on a sustainable basis. In other words, it would be envisaged as a long-term kind of an arrangement. Some of these units have been there for quite a long time, and that has been the practice. But at the same time, task teams have been established from time to time at various levels. I suppose that even at a district level, a district commissioner would observe a particular problem in their area of jurisdiction, and they would say, we need a particular task team to deal with that particular problem, and of 3 people or 4 people and so on, and they would be allocated some resources and they would deal with it. At provincial level, they would do the same, establish a task team for a particular purpose, with a specific time frame, specific allocation of resources, and it would be gone into. Once the mission has been accomplished, they would then withdraw members. Remember, when you establish a task team, you don't all of a sudden appoint people from outside. You pick up people from within that particular area as you choose, as they may be suitable in terms of their expertise for a particular purpose. And then you draft them in as part of that particular task team. And as soon as the mission has been accomplished, you then get them back so that they continue to play their role where they come from. You don't open up a gap on a permanent basis because it will cause confusion. Say, for instance, in a province, if you suddenly see the need to establish 8 task teams for a particular reason, it would mean that you would need to call a number of people from the and who you wouldn't be able to replace for the duration of that particular. So that's why it is always necessary that once you are done with the mission, you withdraw people. They don't ask you where to go. They go back to where they are ordinarily appointed. So that has been the practice, well established in SAPS.
So can we accept then, from what you're saying, that a task team won't appear on organizational structure or what is called an organogram because it is appointed to perform a specific task? And in this case, the president appointed this interministerial committee to establish a task team to deal with political killings, specifically in KZN.
And he made that task team be chaired by the Minister of Police, who would then perform administrative duties of the interministerial committee in terms of agendas for meetings, discussion, and all of those as Minister of Police. And everybody was aware that this is a task team. In fact, throughout government, in my experience, outlined before, once you mention task team in the country, 2 things jump up in your mind. One is that you are going to pool a number of people with skills that are relevant for what needs to be done. Like in a disaster, you put up a task team. You pull up people that are going to be relevant in dealing with that particular task that has been identified in a particular area for that particular time. But it is always an element of a time frame. You don't establish a task team on a permanent basis. If you do, it's rare. It would be peculiar, but ordinarily, a task team has a date of starting, date of ending, pool resources, you pull people back to where they belong. So this particular task team was established as such, as a task team. And this task would be evaluated from time to time and assessed whether it would still be needed as time went on, as it happened.
Okay.
That's the practice.
Yeah. So on what you are saying, Minister, so once this